Hey guys, what's up? This is Panzer Dragon, aka Luigi Dragon, and today I'll be going over who I think the top 5 AD carries for solo queue are. So at number 5, we do have Miss Fortune. In the recent patch, she has gone through some changes, and it turns out it was a pretty high buff. Her Q is on a lower cooldown, but it does less damage as it was at a 5-second cooldown before, and now it is at a 3-second cooldown. And the W now is only used for getting the passive, as putting points into it does only increase the attack speed by 10% and increases the mana by 10. So now Miss Fortune users can max out E, as the base damage on that is pretty good and the utility coming from it is pretty good too, as it does slow a lot of people. This is a pretty good buff, as previously Miss Fortune users had to max out W, but now can max out E for utility and base damage. And I think one of the biggest parts is that her R now applies W stacks. So now that when you hit a bunch of people with your R, when you start auto-attacking them, they will have full W stacks on them, which means finally you don't have to do 4 auto-attacks before getting the max amount of stacks on her W. And now the W does do 50% of your total AD. So say you had an Infinity Edge and you did a crit, you can do 250% of your damage plus 50% in magic damage because of her impure shots. Anyways, let's go on why she's good again. She does bring that AoE wombo combo with her ultimate, which does win teamfights. And in lane she does still provide high damage, and Miss Fortune is pretty mobile as her passive does give her an extra 70 base movement speed. So if she needs to get back to lane or to farm something, she'll get there quicker more than other AD carries. Some cons is that she really doesn't really have any escapes. The only escapes she can do is the E slow and running away with her passive movement speed. So again, she is pretty vulnerable to dives onto her. And at number 4 we do have Caitlyn. Caitlyn does bring high poke with her long range and of course Q. She can also use her ultimate for poking too if she really wants to, and in lane she is a pretty good lane bully as she does shove out the wave and she can abuse her range to zone the enemy out, which basically makes her fairly good early game, and she is also good at sieging. A good Kate would know that once she gets the bot tower she can rotate mid and just start sieging that tower, and once that happens her team basically has pretty good map control. So some cons are for Caitlyn is that her highest point is early game. Other AD carries actually scale better since she does not really have an attack speed steroid. She doesn't have anything that amplifies her auto attack damage except for her headshot, but that only comes up every 7 to 5 auto attacks, and most AD carries nowadays do have some kind of amplification or attack speed steroid. And another con is that her escape move can be interrupted. In the animation where she is dashing, she can be hard CC'd to interrupt the dash and it won't go the full length. So it can be unreliable sometimes. And at number 3 we do have Lucian. I feel that Lucian does excel at being above average for everything there could be in LOL. He's got an escape, he's got burst damage, he's got a double shot, he gets bonus movement speed from his W, and overall I just feel like he's a strong AD carry. So anyways, in lane he does have pretty good trade potential, as every time he casts a spell he does do a double shot, although that does do 150% of an auto attack damage, but it still does feel powerful early. And also, as he does put points into his Q, it does get stronger as the bonus AD ratio does go higher. His E is pretty unique as it is a dash and it can break slows. So Nasus tries to wither you, guess what? You're just gonna dash and break out of it. Lucian's ultimate is actually pretty good for teamfights and poking, as it does have long range, it lets you position yourself better, and it's got pretty good scaling and a low cooldown. It can also be used for wave clearing if needed. So a con for Lucian is that he's one of the AD carries who don't provide crowd control, the other being Sivir, Ezreal, and Corki, although that is fine for the damage that he can provide. So at number 2 we do have Jinx. Jinx has pretty good auto attack range with her rockets, and of course her zap, as her zap does have a pretty good AD ratio. This does give her some poke and is pretty good for sieging. Jinx does have cleanup potential with her passive, as she does gain bonus movement speed if she gets an assist or a kill, and that can set her up with more kills as she does have her W for slowing people down, and her ultimate does have a pretty good explosion range, while also being an execute, so maybe she can pick off a kill by shooting this somewhere around the map. She is also pretty good late game as she does bring tons of damage, and of course she does have long range because of her rockets, so in teamfight she's fairly safe with that range. So some cons of Jinx is that she doesn't really have any escape move, she only really brings self-peel with flame chompers, and she's pretty vulnerable to divers. Of course if she does have peel she can just kill those divers. And at number 1 we do have Draven! Yeah! Draven has a really high snowball potential, as his AD scaling is godlike, and once he gets that Bloodthirster, it is really hard to take him down if you don't have enough damage, as he can lifesteal a lot of it. And when he does have 2 axes up, you can't trade with him as he will out-damage you. I mean, you've seen those 3-0 Dravens who just throw out a spinning axe at you? do like 75% of your health and then kills you on the second shot because you don't expect that damage. Trust me, Draven Reigns are really annoying as they do know what to do in certain situations. They can single-handedly carry the game by themselves, and they will have a lot of presence once he gets some items. So if not shut down, he will be unstoppable. So one thing about Draven is that he can outplay gap closers with his E. This means if he sees a Jax leaping at him or a Wukong leaping at him, he can actually cancel the dash with his E if he times it right. As a Wukong player, I have tried to gank Draven many times, and 50% of the time he does outplay me by using his E, and I'm not on top of him, so my ult won't land. Draven does potentially have one of the most highest damages as an AD carry, if he can keep catching his axes. And Draven's ultimate, despite being a globe, does have high damage, as it does do loop and shares the same mechanics as Boomerang Blade. And also Blood Rush is a really strong AD carry steroid, as it does give him the potential to kite and of course do more damage. So some cons of Draven is that he's vulnerable to lockdowns. Like yes, every AD carry is vulnerable to lockdowns, but to stop a Draven from doing DPS, you must hard CC him and then take him out of the fight before you can begin to do DPS. Draven does require a high skill cap as catching Actus is not a simple thing, and of course outplaying people with your E also does require a skill, and spinning axes are half your DPS. So if you aren't there in team fights with spinning axes, then you're actually worth less than another AD carry. But the best reason why I think he deserves number 1 is because of his very high snowball potential. Like it is really hard to gank a 3-0 Draven, as by that point he can probably 2v3, and maybe only the mid laner can help the bot lane. Hey, thank you for watching. I am Panzerdragon, aka Luigi Dragon. Check out my other tier list for patch 4.5. Next one that I am working on is the top laner one, so be sure to look out for that one in the near future, and I will see you guys next time.